and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning into the line of scrimmage. I am your host, Ryan Neff. The guy next to me over this way, that's Delco Dave of Delco Dave's Cheesesteaks out there in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm here in my palatial penthouse with the 1975 wood paneling. But you can see I'm in a stadium somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. Don't know what particular stadium I'm in. You'll have to guess. But they got the lights on and whatnot. Dave, how are you? Did you enjoy the Super Bowl?
I did. I did. First of all, thanks for that shout out for the business. Appreciate that. We actually had one of our best days today. It was great. Word's getting out, so appreciate that. If anybody is in Lincoln or in Nebraska area and wants to check it out, check out the Facebook page. Come on down. Really appreciate that. But yeah, man, I did enjoy the Super Bowl. I said this on a few different shows now that I've been on, but I, above all else, am a hater, and I don't want more happy football fans. So the Chiefs fans are going to be happy no matter what. They're in the middle of a dynasty, got the current best head coach quarterback combo in the league. If they lost that game, they'd still be ecstatic and they'd still know they'd be back. Whereas Niner fans are miserable, just like the rest of us right now. So, like, I didn't want to see the Niners fans be happy. We didn't need that. So, the less happy football fans, that's where I'm at. So, yeah, I was okay with that.
Well, 8:45 p.m. we will have Scott Wolf, uh, covers USC football, insiderusc.blog. A lot of useful information. If there's any USC fans out there, you can check out his blog. I was checking it out earlier today. Absolutely outstanding information. Uh, so let's get to. We're in the off season now, both the NFL and college football, and there's like a bunch of stuff going on. Heather Dinich today from ESPN reporting that the College Football Playoff Board of Managers is expected to vote on a 5+7 playoff format. This is due to the rapidly expanding realignments. It's supposed to be voted on February 20th. Basically, it was supposed to be Power 5+7, but now with the Pac-12 being defunct and only Washington State and Oregon State in it, I don't know how they're going to do this. I would, encourage everybody to go check out the article. It explains everything in detail. And basically, and I'll just read some of the Pac-12, which has dwindled to Washington State and Oregon State after drastic conference realignment, has been the lone holdout in the process of this vote, asking for time to sort through its legal issues, yada, yada, yada. So we've already done that. So now you've got, the SEC and the Big Ten are driving this thing anyway. It's all about revenue sharing. Obviously, Washington State and Oregon State, they're not going to get as big of a piece of the pie as far as the revenue sharing when it comes to the playoff, but they would probably fall somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's say middle tier ACC payouts or, middle tier like Big 12 payouts as far as that goes. And again, I would encourage everybody to read the article. So basically, what this would be is, and I'm trying to follow the article here, so just bear with me. It would basically be 5 conference qualifiers and then the 7 next ranked teams. So it's not going to be like the college football committee is going to say, oh, like these 5 automatic qualifiers, and then we're going to go pick the 7 best teams. It would be like the 7th best teams that are ranked minus the qualifiers. And again, it gets confusing. I don't like it. Really, what I think they should do is there shouldn't be any automatic qualifiers, to be quite honest with you. The Big Ten, the SEC, again, are driving this. I think what it should be is the College Football Playoff Committee should just go into it and pick the 12 best teams across the country and then play them off. Dave, I know you're a busy man. You probably haven't had time to look at this. What
Well,
do
no,
you?
so I'm just curious. So the Pac 2 will get an automatic qualifier. Is that what we're saying here? Did I understand what you said correctly there? Because that seems kind of crazy.
As it stands right now, I don't think that's going to happen
Okay.
because they're too much in limbo.
Yeah.
Really, what's gaining steam from everything I'm reading is instead of Oregon State and Washington State joining the Mountain West, what's going to happen. And again, a lot of steam is headed toward the Mountain West dissolving, and then everybody from the Mountain West going over to the Pac-12
Okay.
and keeping that conference intact. Now, they're not going to see as big of a piece of the pie when it comes to revenue sharing, when it comes to the playoffs, but at least you have that conference will still be intact. Because the Mountain West, does it have good football? Yes. Is it a traditional powerhouse?
No.
No. So, um, again, this is it's all discombobulated.
And this is all
Um,
to be set up for next season, right? Like they're trying to get this ready for next season. This isn't like a 2 year, 3 year plan. They're like, this is the big realignment happened, and now they need to get the playoffs set up. So this is all stuff that's going to be happening quick.
the 5+7 model, which the commissioners proposed in response again to all this realignment crap, it left college athletics with 4 power conferences, was
Mm-hmm.
presented to the presidents and the chancellors in November for their approval. But because of what was happening with the Pac-12, they asked them to give them a little bit more time. Um, it was discussed again at their annual meeting before the national championship game in Houston. At the time, um, they were pushing the vote back because of what was happening with the Pac-12. Um, so this is all predicated. I don't know what's going to happen February 20th. It just might be that it. Uh, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know where they come. I don't know where they're going to come up with the fifth team that's going to automatically qualify.
Yeah, from what you're telling me, I would just go with a 4+8 then. Like, doesn't that make more sense? Like, I'm just thinking from a common sense standpoint. If you have 4 power conferences, those are the 4 automatic bids. There you go, done. Like, I don't know. I mean, granted, I'm not in charge of anything. All I do is make cheesesteaks. But like, that seems the simplest way to go. And we're probably even headed towards more of the only 2 automatic bids eventually will be the Big Ten and the SEC, and then the other 10 spots come from the committee, which that's where I think even if they did that for this season would make sense to me. I mean, I'm sure the Big 12 and the ACC wouldn't like that, but that's what we're at. The Big Ten and the SEC are they're the main conferences. That's where we're at this point after the realignment.
So it's the vote on February 20th would include the 5 highest ranked conference champions.
Okay.
So because the Pac-12 is in limbo, who the hell knows what's going to happen? Again, do they go to the Mountain West? Do they go to the MAC? Where are they going to go for the other conference champion again? And then the next 7 highest ranked teams in the 12-team playoff, which to me doesn't make any sense. So now you're going back to the rankings. Who cares? I mean, if this is a 5+7, okay, take the 5 conference qualifiers and then screw the next ranked 7. Go to the next. You pick. You look at teams from all across the country, and then you pick the next best 7, not the next 7 ranked. It doesn't make any sense to me. And again, if they do this, then what do you think the 13th place team's going to say? Oh, we got screwed. It's just going to be more of the same thing.
Yeah, but
We're,
this is always. I see what you're saying, but you always have to have a cutoff somewhere. You know what I mean? Like I can always bring it back to like the restaurant. Like I have to close at some time. I have to make a time to not take any more orders. So yes, of course, the person that can't get there because I close at 7 p.m. They can't get there till 7:10. Well, hey man, like you got to work. Like I can't just keep extending. Like if I extend it 10 minutes for you, then I extend it 5 more minutes for somebody else, and then all of a sudden you can't please everybody. So that's going to happen no matter what. I think 12 is a good cutoff, and it'll give college football a real postseason. With any luck, it'll give some meaning back to bowl season. Like I would love to see that. Something I think I don't think that I think the Rose Bowl, Peach Bowl, like the January 6th bowl games shouldn't be involved in the college football playoff at all. Let them be standalone games for the teams that didn't make the playoffs, because then those players and those organizations, those programs are still going to want to go play. So boom, now you're going to still have 6 meaningful games with teams that want to go play football. You know what I mean? Even if you don't make the playoffs, you get to say you won the Rose Bowl in 2025. You know what I mean? You get to say you did that stuff. So I wouldn't even have the the January 1, the 6 games. Like I wouldn't even have that involved in it. The national championship separate, and then rotate who gets to host the national champ. It gives you another thing to hype up. It brings back meaning to the postseason.
Just according to the Pac-12's proposal, Oregon State and Washington State are asking for a distribution share and voting rights equal to the lowest per school pro rate share of the ACC, Big 12, Big 10, or SEC conferences distribution, regardless of how those four conferences actually distribute college football playoff distributions to their members. So again, everybody wants a cut. Obviously, more people are going to, the Big Ten and the SEC, obviously, you're going to get a higher part of the pie. They're going to get a bigger slice of that blueberry or pecan pie that we love so much. Again, I would like to see sometime in the really near future, and we know it's not going to happen this year, but I'm hoping that next year that the Mountain West says, you know what, we've had our traditions, we get it, but we can keep all those traditions and let's just transfer over to Pac-12 and let's start something new and keep that conference intact. So, and it makes more sense because if they do, then you're not having Washington State travel to Rutgers, or you're not having Oregon State traveling to Miami. Everything is right there for the most part. So the logistics of it are better. Obviously, again, the logistics, new rivalries, and not a lot of people realize that Arizona and a couple of the other schools, Arizona and Arizona State, used to be in different. They used to be in like the old Mountain West, way, 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 way back when. Again, this is to be determined. We'll see what happens. Well, a week from now, February 20th. So, again, ever-changing world of college football. So we'll see. I'm still not sold on and I get what you're saying, Dave, but I would just. This is the way I would do it. It's a 12-team playoff. Just go out and pick the 12 best teams. Vote on what you think are the 12 best teams, and then we stick them in the college football playoff. I don't like automatic qualifiers. I don't like any of that crap. Just like with college basketball, I just pick I don't even like the 68 teams. The two playing games to make up the 64. It's a joke. It's just another way to make money. Just like Jay Billis said, just go and pick the 64 best teams in the country. You get top-notch, people who watch basketball 24/7, people who watch college football 24/7 should be the ones in that room, not ADs and not presidents, because they don't watch football all day long like some of the analysts do and stuff like that. It just, I don't know. There's still a
I
lot that
mean,
needs to be improved.
yeah, I mean the automatic bids actually don't concern me as much as like the format. Like I feel like you could make if you did the Jan 1 bowl game separate, right? That's 6 of them right there, and it goes to just 13 through 24. That'd be 12 teams right there that would play in traditionally historic games. They get to say they won that. Boom! They got 6 competitive games. That the bowl game itself is the allure and the history right there. And then you have another 12 teams that are playing in that playoff. You're talking 12 to 6 to 4 to 2, like all those games down to a national championship. I just want bowl season to mean something again. That would be my concern. Make bowl season fun again, and I think that's a way to do it. You're making sure the 24 best teams, at least the top 24 teams, are playing in meaningful games. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the automatic bids or however they shake it out, but just find a way to make those games matter.
So we'll see what happens in the next coming months, and especially and it'll be next Tuesday. So it'll be food for
Oh,
fodder.
we'll be able to talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
make sure you track that. And then you mentioned travel too and stuff like that. That's gonna be interesting for like teams like USC and UCLA. Like I haven't looked at USC's road schedule, but do you know where they're traveling to? Do they have a lot of East Coast games? Like where?
In fact,
I know UCLA is at least coming to Lincoln. Take on my Huskers, so I know that's at least happened. So they got to play outside it's later in the season too, so they're going to come play in some cold weather in like November. That's for UCLA. I don't know what USC's travel schedule is, but are they going to be on the East Coast a lot? A lot of early start times.
They start off with LSU in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Then they're home against Utah State. They got to go to Michigan.
That's probably early enough in the season that the weather will still probably be okay. But granted, Michigan weather's crazy, so you never know. But that might be one that'll be okay with them weather wise and travel wise.
Like later on, I mean, there's nothing really that'll jump out at you on the schedule as far as
Okay.
like, now damn it, damn it, I just had it. Hold on, damn it, Janet. Um, there's really nothing that jumps out at you as far as the schedule. Um, they don't really have to go anywhere on the road like late in the year.
Okay.
Um, and I'll just here. They're at Michigan Saturday, September 21st. Sunday, they're home against Wisconsin, so Wisconsin has to go out
Go
there.
there.
October 5th, they're at Minnesota.
That could be a chilly
Uh,
one.
State has to go out to L.A. Then the following week, they've got to go to Maryland. And they fly back across the country on the 26th of October. They play Rutgers. Then on November 2nd, they've got to go up to Washington. Saturday, November 16th, Delco Dave's Cheesesteaks will probably be rocking because the Nebraska Cornhuskers on Saturday, November 16th, host the USC Trojans.
Nice.
They're home for USC and UCLA, who's played in the Rose Bowl anyway. and then they follow up with, as always, with Notre Dame at the end of the year. So
All right. They might have a couple. That Maryland game might be tough. You said they're at Rutgers, or Rutgers is going to them?
Rutgers is
Rutgers.
going, and then
Okay, yeah. So that one will be yeah, but those later ones that'll be interesting for USC, man. Them having to do that and that kind of travel that'll be interesting for them. Going to play those cold weather teams later in the season.
uh, Associated Press. This is the quick injunction ruling in the Tennessee-Virginia NIL lawsuit. Likely, a federal judge said today that he will rule in short order on a preliminary injunction requested by the states of Tennessee and Virginia to stop the NCAA from enforcing its rules governing name, image, and likeness compensation for athletes as part of an antitrust lawsuit. Again, this is just going to continue to get uglier and uglier.
This is the highlight of college football right now. Is this NIL stuff?
Yeah.
It's absolute chaos, and I love it. Whenever I
Again,
get it in the budget, I'm definitely bringing a Husker football player on. With the Delco Days NIL deal. It's not there yet, but one of these days.
and again, it's so there's a lot of wordage. So I would encourage anybody to like go to the Associated Press article and read about it. It's just I know the judge said he's going to make a decision in short order, but there's a lot to go through. Um, and again, it's all about money, what the players are making. I know the NCAA probably want to like put like a cap on something. They want to be able to govern it. And obviously Tennessee and Virginia are saying, they don't have the right to do that. And again, it didn't help that, the Dartmouth ruling, as far as the players are going to be unionized and they are now employees of the school and they are not.
Yo, that's another one, man. Players unionizing. Oh, I love it. Because, like, again, is there still going to be class requirements? Is that in your employment contract? So if you go to Dartmouth and you're a football player, so they're hiring you, quote unquote. Is it in your employment contract that you have to attend X amount of classes? Is it a condition of your employment? That's fascinating.
Yeah. Um,
Because then
again,
we mentioned before, but if you don't have to go to class, then you're just a semi-pro team. If you're no longer a student athlete, you're just going to play football somewhere.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
And so when players now, they won't be letters of intent anymore. It'll be like actual contracts.
yeah.
It's not going to be a letter. Oh, I'm choosing, you know, LSU because that gives me the best opportunity to get to the pros and a great education. No, I'm going to LSU because they got a great union and they've got the best NIL deals, and I don't have to go to frickin' class.
Yeah,
That's
I don't know how this is all going to shake out, but we are in a crazy time of college football. Realignment, playoff expansion, NIL, transfer portal, unionizing of college athletes. Like all this stuff together is fascinating. This is like, I swear, there's going to be 30 for 30s on this stuff down the road. People are going to write books about this. Like, this is a wild time in college sports.
yeah, man.
Which, by the
Harvard.
way, I know you don't like it, but by the way, I actually like it because the NCAA and all those schools are making so much money off these kids all the time, right? With no guarantee that they were getting a great education, their degree was going to get them anything. There was no guarantee for that. And the NCAA and schools were printing money off of the talents of these kids. So I'm not saying that this is the best way to go about it or everything's going to be positive, but this, I love to see the fact that, at least these kids are fighting back and trying to be like, look, no, you're making all this money. We want to be fairly compensated.
Harvard hires Rutgers assistant Andrew Orich as new head coach. He replaced Tim Murphy. Tim Murphy, who was there for the last 3 decades. Um, so obviously they, go to Rutgers. Uh, Probably a little bit familiar with the program. It's the first head coaching job for Orich. He's been assistant with Scarlet Knights since 2020. He also coached the running backs. Um, he was a defensive assistant with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2012. So he knows the ins and outs of both levels. Wish him nothing but the best there at Harvard. They're usually pretty stout. Uh, Harvard and Harvard Yale. It always comes down to Harvard Yale at the end of the year, because the halftime show is usually like student bodies from both. They sit down and solve mathematical equations like at halftime. That's that. No. I'm just joking.
I was
I'm
like,
just
wait, so that's not a real thing, is
See,
it?
so you believe me just for a
I'll be
sec.
honest, I've never paid much attention to Ivy League football, so like you definitely had me going there for a second. I was like, "There's
Oh,
no." I'm picturing them just wheeling out whiteboards.
Princeton, Penn, Harvard, Yale. Oh my God, some of those football games are fantastic if you can
Well, I
get
mean,
them on.
the big one I always watch is Army Navy, man. As an Army vet myself, like that's like the big one. Like, neither one of those schools is ever going to, be competing for the college football playoffs or national championship. That's not what they're there for. But always go. I always watch Army Navy. That's one of the big ones that I watch that doesn't really factor into the overall story arc of the college football season.
Chip Kelly going to Ohio State as offense coordinator. Deshaun Foster was hired as UCLA's new coach. Bill O'Brien left Ohio State after what I think he
A
flew
week,
in, had a cup of coffee,
no doubt.
some breakfast, and then he left.
I mean,
So
he left for a head coaching job
yeah,
though. Like, I mean,
and
it's odd. He did the opposite of Chip Kelly. Like he left to go be a head coach at a smaller program. Chip Kelly's like, yeah, like I'd rather just be an OC at a bigger program.
I would suspect now that with the hiring of Chip Kelly at Ohio State, it's going to be something. The brand of style of offense that he brings will probably be something like Ohio State's never seen before at Ohio State offensively. I know over the last 20 years it's been RPO. You had to incorporate that. Chip Kelly, it's wheeling and dealing. It's RPO. It's passing all over the place. It's utilizing running backs out of the backfield in the passing game a lot. It's up tempo.
when
Now,
he was when he was head coach of the Eagles, he had the staple of his one of the staples of his offense was that RPO look where he would have in the shotgun have the quarterback stick the ball into the running back's stomach, make the read, pull it out, but then instead of running, he was throwing a wide receiver screen. So that was the option. Like the quarterback wasn't actually taking off himself. It was either let the running back take it, whatever the read was, and then if not, he'd whip it out to a wide receiver screen. I yelled at my TV all the time. It drove me absolutely insane watching 50 wide receiver screens to Riley Cooper all year.
and again, a lot of pressure will be on Ryan Day this year. as far as Ohio State goes, because Jim Harbaugh is no longer at Michigan. A couple of guys, their key components, are leaving for the NFL. I know Sharon Moore is now the head coach, but again, if you can't win this year and you can't beat Michigan this year, when Harbaugh is gone with Chip Kelly's, their defense is going to be solid. But I mean, if you can't win with that style of offense now, they're going to throw up points. But it's going to come down to that last game against Michigan, year in and year out.
I actually wonder with the hire in Chip Kelly if they kind of had Chip Kelly as like the heir apparent. Like, yeah, like if he doesn't get it done, like we're just going to transition right to Kelly. Like he's run multiple college programs, head coach in the NFL. But this is a guy that's an easy hire. Get him in the building now. So I wonder, Dave's probably feeling some pressure. Like he's probably feeling a ton of pressure right now, and he probably knows that's where he's at. Because I mean, I don't think he would get another head coaching job unless he took one of those smaller schools, smaller program. So he'd probably have to go back to being a coordinator.
Bill O'Brien is close to hiring Will Lawing as offense coordinator. Will Lawing, he was tight ends coach with the New England Patriots. He's also worked with Ed O'Brien at Alabama, the Texans. He's a graduate assistant from Penn State. So obviously, Bill O'Brien is going to hire guys that he's been familiar with. And again, it's going to take Bill O'Brien at Boston College a couple. Look, Boston College is a tough place to win at. Every 4 or 5 years they have like one of those seasons where they'll go 9-3. Maybe 10-2 every once in a while. So, he's going to hire guys that he's familiar with. And I see in the green room is Mr. Scott Wolf, covering USC football. So, Angel, if you want to bring him up, let's get right to it. And I see him. Can you hear me, Scott? Thanks again for joining. It's insiderusc.blog, correct? Inside.blog. Yeah, I was checking it out earlier today. So let's get right to it. Look, Lincoln Riley, I think he's probably feeling the heat a little bit. Look, the special teams and the defense were a complete disaster. They fired the defense coordinator. Lincoln Riley's offense does put up points, but how much pressure is on him going into this season?
Oh, there's a lot of pressure going into this season. I mean, he's coming off a really bad season by USC's standards, and he's joining the Big Ten. He doesn't have Caleb Williams anymore. This is the most pressure he's ever felt as a college football coach. Coming off his worst season, he's lost almost as many games in 2 years at USC as he did the entire time he was at Oklahoma. So he's now moving into a much better conference. So, there couldn't be more heat on him, really, at this point, going into the next season.
Dave?
Yeah, Scott. So do you think that what is the barometer for success he needs to get to stick around for another season? Do you think he's secure after this year, regardless of what happens, or is what's the certain level? What kind of success would he have to reach to make sure he sticks around?
Well, for the fans, the college football playoff is the expectation. For the athletic administration or the university, I'd say if he wins 10 games, he's probably okay, regardless if that gets him into the playoff or not. But that won't please too many people, depending on how they look in the games. And, if those losses are bad losses, people are not going to be happy either. So he's got to win at some point a conference title, and that was a lot easier, I think, in the Pac-12 than the Big Ten. So, it's hard to say what would get him fired because there's a new athletic director, Jen Cohen from Washington. She's not the one who hired him, so she might have a little less patience. On the other hand, he's probably got a pretty good buyout because he makes about $10 million a year. So they might be a little more forgiving, but the fans are not going to be forgiving because a lot of them had enough after this past season.
So they get rid of Alex Grinch, obviously, because let's be honest, the defense was abysmal. Doesn't matter if you're scoring 35 points a game, if you're giving up 40 some odd points a game, you're not going to win many football games. They bring in D'Anton Lynn. They pull them away from their rival UCLA. Uh, they're it can't get much worse, can it?
Well, I mean, if you listen to the people at SC, they're very optimistic because they think the new defensive staff is going to make a big impact. I have a wait and see attitude, obviously. I mean, they have a guy who's been a coordinator for 1 year at UCLA coming in now to be the coordinator at USC. So he doesn't really know what it's like to be under the pressure because UCLA is a much different job than UCLA. UCLA is a much different job than USC. So I don't know. He might be a little over his head. We're going to find out. But you would think at SC they would have been able to hire a guy who was like established, a big time name, whatever. And they couldn't do it. He got turned down by some people and he ended up going across town and getting a young guy. It might work out, but we don't know at this point. And, there really isn't a proven track record. You can't really go off one season at UCLA.
Is there any particular reason why you think that they couldn't get a big name in there?
Well, I think it's hard. Defensive coaches don't like the offense that Riley runs because it puts so much pressure on the defense. They don't really manage the game in terms of thinking about the defense, how much time they're on the field, things like that. They don't run the ball consistently. So it's not fun for the defensive coordinator when you're in a game situation like that. So I think that turned off some coaches. And Lincoln Riley historically hasn't cared about defense. So, he had a track record that wasn't great. I mean, those Mike Leach disciples don't like to play a lot of defense. Look at Cliff Kingsbury, who was on the staff at SC last year, and some of the other guys. So it's not considered a great job if you're already a big time guy, on defense.
Dave?
Yeah, those guys have careers to think about too. Nobody wants to step into a job on a big stage and be the punching bag. That's essentially what they be with the way Lincoln Riley plays that offense. So that's actually Ryan asked the question I was thinking about asking, but we touched on it earlier, Scott, before you jumped on with the move. Do you think what do you think about the travel schedule for USC this year and playing some of those East Coast teams, going across the country, some of those road games, different weather conditions? How much of an effect do you think that'll have on the program?
Well, it's going to be interesting to me. I mean, I think the big thing is going to be uh, the hostile atmosphere. Once you make that long flight, you're going to go to Michigan. They haven't played at a school like Michigan, in conference. They don't get that same atmosphere. Um, they go to Oregon, but it's a smaller crowd, and that's probably the most hostile atmosphere in the Pac-12. So that's going to be a problem. And then you do have, it's like it was a big deal every year. They'd go to Notre Dame every 2 years, actually. And now that's just like another road game in the Big Ten. So, they're going to have to go to Maryland, Michigan. Those are not fun trips to go on in the middle of the school year. And then if it's later in the year, is it snowing? It's going to be cold. So they don't know really how they're going to respond to that. So I think they're curious as much as we are as fans, what's going to happen and how they're going to respond. And it's something UCLA is even worse off because I think they have like the most miles in the country next year in terms of travel of any school in the nation. So um, it's not going to be pleasant, though. I don't predict, a good experience from all that.
Transfer portal, as far as Lincoln Riley goes, I see they had 11 transfers this offseason. 8 out of the 11 were basically defensive guys. Um, they've got to shore up that defense, Scott, because if they don't shore up that defense, it's going to be a long, long 2024 for this football team.
Yeah, and I suspect they're going to bring in some more guys in the spring or summer too to shore up that defense. So I don't think they're done yet, actually. And frankly, they need to bring in some offensive linemen at the same time because that was another big weakness last year besides the defense, the offensive line. So they haven't had a splashy transfer portal like they did previously with Riley, but they still have some time to add some guys. But they are trying to bring in guys that the new defensive staff wants. They've got a couple guys from UCLA coming in that Lynn coached over there last year. And they've actually brought in a couple guys from Oregon State, which is funny to me. I mean, I think they're good players, but, who would ever thought in the old days USC has to go to Oregon State to get players to improve the defense? So, but it just shows you where they're at right now as a program. So um, I think the expectation is they'll be better on defense, but how much better?
Do you think the way Caleb Williams handled everything last year was sort of a cancer in the locker room?
No, I don't think so. He's actually a pretty respected figure with the players, and he didn't have the year that was expected on the field, and the problem I see is they didn't do anything with the best quarterback in the country last year, and now they're gonna have a first year starter next year at quarterback. So they're gonna be normal like everybody else next year at quarterback. They're not gonna have a guy that's gonna be able to erase problems, deficiencies with the rest of the team. So I think they're gonna miss Caleb Williams.
Dave?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up Caleb Williams because I wanted to ask you your thoughts on his prospects going forward. Entering the NFL draft, where do you see what does he have a skill set that's going to transition well to the NFL easily? It's going to be an easy transition for him, or is it going to be something more difficult? Does he need to end up in the perfect spot?
I don't. I wouldn't say it's going to be easy. I don't think so. Especially if he goes to the Bears. I mean, I think that's going to be an issue. Have issues there transitioning. That's not
Who
like going.
doesn't? What quarterback doesn't have issues with the Bears?
Right.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure deep down, he doesn't really want to go to the Bears, but he won't have a choice. But I think he'll be the number one pick, and then he'll probably have his ups and downs next year. He's got to, learn that he can't just run around and throw the ball and make sidearm passes like he started doing this year. He's got to become more disciplined as a quarterback. But, if you hire the right coach, offensive coordinator, whatever, the potential is, unlimited for the guy. So I would definitely take him over, the other guys that are in the draft at quarterback. And I understand, I was critical of him at times this past season. He made mistakes, but at the same time, he does things that nobody else can do. So that's where you have to get a coach to do something with the player. I mean, look at Patrick Mahomes. He didn't have a great college career, and Cliff Kingsbury couldn't even have a 500 record at Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes. But once he got to the Chiefs, everything changed. So the thing is, the expectations are going to be very high for Caleb Williams. So any little mistakes he makes, people are going to be all over him for it. But he's been in the limelight since high school, so I'm actually not too worried about how he handles that kind of stuff.
Looking ahead to next year, I know we're like 7 months off. I get it, but the game against LSU to open up the season, Scott, does that set the tone for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think it can, especially if they lose, because I think they go to Michigan uh, pretty soon in game three, maybe.
Yep.
So that's a pretty tough bounce back if you lose that game. If you win, then you're flying high and ready to take on the world. Um, that's going to be a weird game to me because you got two teams that are going to have new quarterbacks. So, and they've both had staff changes at key positions. So we'll see, who's adjusted better, and who's they're both head coaches in their third season at the school they're at too. So I think it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of doubters in that game about whether Lincoln Riley's really transformed the defense and improved the team. So that's going to be the audition right there. People are going to judge him on that game a lot. And if they do well, they're going to say, he's gotten the defense fixed and now they're ready to take on everybody. If he loses, then everyone's going to be like, "Oh man, it's the same thing as last year."
It's just weird to see USC at Michigan, then they're home against Wisconsin, then they're at Minnesota, then they're home against Penn State. It's just something that I never thought that I would see in my lifetime, Scott.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people feel about the schedule. They've been, playing Pacific Coast teams for, decades. So it is very strange to see this schedule the way it's set up right now. And from my perspective, I'm just, curious if it's going to be a good thing because, in the Pac 12, as good as it was last year, you still have games where you can kind of play at maybe 50% if you're a team like USC and you can squeak by. I don't know if they can get away with that in the Big Ten. And it's going to be interesting to see, how that happens in those games. Because you can't play a bad game, against Penn State and think you're going to win. And I think Wisconsin's going to be better than they were last year. And I've been to Minnesota. That can be a tough place to play at if they have a decent team. So and they're well coached. So there's no real gimmies any in the conference. So that's not going to be fun. I don't think. I'll be honest. Lincoln Riley, he will never admit it, but I don't think he wants any part of this move to the Big Ten.
Right.
And I think that's why he left Oklahoma. One of the reasons he didn't want to go to the SEC.
Yeah.
So we'll see now how it's going to turn out. But he's going to be stressed, I think.
Scott, before I let you go here, tell the people out there where they can read your articles, where they can get a hold of you.
I'm on Twitter at Inside USC, and my blog is insideusc.blog.
Scott, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time. When it gets closer to the college football season, we got to get you back on to see where USC is going into the season.
Yeah, I would love to come back anytime. This was fun.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you,
Appreciate it,
guys.
Scott.
Have a good night. That
You too.
is Scott Wolf, Inside Blog, or Inside Blog. Oh my God, it's been a long day. Inside
InsideUSC.blog.
USC blog. Again, go check it out. Wonderful articles. It's wonderfully put together. And again, just looking at this, just looking at this schedule for USC, it just for some odd reason, it just it's not computing. Like it's not sinking in.
No, I don't
That
think Lincoln Riley survives the season.
no, I
I don't
don't.
think he does.
No. He didn't want to go to the SEC.
Yeah,
He
I
doesn't
don't.
want to go to the Big Ten. I just think that if they lose to LS, look, they're probably going to beat Utah State,
And that's week Utah. I was an agent. Utah State is week 2. You said right?
right? So they play against LSU. That's in a neutral site. They're probably going to beat Utah State. Then they get a bye week
Okay.
to prepare for Michigan. They got to go to the Big House. They're probably going to wind up losing. Look,
He could be 1-2 right there. He could be
yeah.
1-2. And Scott said he's like he probably get the 10 wins. If he has 2 losses in his first 3 games, like man,
Home against Wisconsin's not going to be easy. Then they kick off October at Minnesota. Again, not an easy place to play. Then they host Penn State. Then they're at Maryland. Again,
he could reasonably be 1-4 to start the season if he lasted. If he's 1-4, I mean, do they even let him get to 1-4?
they'll beat Rutgers. Then they got to go up to Washington. Again, new coaching staff, but it's at Husky Stadium. Then they get another bye week. Then they got to go to Nebraska. Never an easy place to play.
Oh wait,
Then
they
it,
are coming to Nebraska.
yeah, November
Okay,
16th.
okay. I was thinking the Huskers were going to USC.
Then obviously they play UCLA. It's in a Rose Bowl,
Yeah.
and then they get Notre Dame at home. They're not making the Big Ten championship game. I'm sorry.
No. I said he could start to see. They could be 1-4.
Yeah, and again, it's just I'm sure as I check other team schedules, it won't compute at first. Um, but again, a good good source of information. Again, you get to know people, you bring them back. it's a fantastic thing talking about college football year round. Um, I forgot to ask you about some of the transfers. Some of the transfers, again, 8 out of the 11 transfers that are coming in for USC are on the defensive side of the football. Anybody who watched any of USC's games, it was pathetic. Again, I think they started off the year 5-0, um, from what I can remember, and they just fell apart, man. Defensively, and it all started the first game of the year. They played San Jose State first game of the year. They were losing at the half, put together a great second half, and then just the defense just continued to get worse and worse and worse throughout the year. They were throwing up points, but they could not stop anybody. I don't care if you're throwing up 38 points a game. If you're giving up 48 a game, you ain't beating anybody.
Yeah, you can't win games giving up 40 plus points a game,
Uh,
and definitely you can't do it in the Big Ten. Like,
again, two different types of styles of play. They're gonna get punched in the mouth. And again, if they get railroaded by LSU the first game of the year, I know they got Utah State next after that. But if they get punched in the mouth and they lay down against LSU, it's going to be a long season. Now, if they play LSU tough, and let's say they lose a close one, okay, all right, you battled, you lost, or even if they can win that game, that's a make or break game, and that's September 1st. That it's either gonna propel them to a good season, or if they get their ass kicked, they're gonna go on the tank.
yeah,
I
I think I really think their whole season could depend on that game because if they win it, they're probably 2-1 after their first 3 games. And you know what I mean? If you're feeling 2-1, you can, especially if they beat LSU, beat Utah State, lose to Michigan, but it's closer than people think. That's something you can hang your hat on. That's a game you can be like, yo, look, we went toe to toe with them. They beat us. That happens, but we can play with these guys. Let's go out next week and do it again.
again, sponsors. See, I'm remembering earlier and earlier. Mustaki's Authentic Heroes, and I think it's Peach Famous.
Yep.
Aha, Peach Famous Pizza. There is no money line. Football season's over. But when the money line reapproaches with the first weekend of college football, and we give our picks as far as the line goes. Again, Mustaki Authentic Heroes and Pete's Famous Pizza. Thank you so much. Just trying to go through some more news and notes. Again,
Appreciate that, Delco Daves. Please come through
Delco
sometime
did.
when you're here. If you're in the Lincoln area, come through for a Husker game and grab a cheesesteak. I'm walking distance from the stadium.
That's good to know. If I come out there for the spring game, or if I come out there for a regular season game, I can I can enjoy a beverage and a cheesesteak, and then I can walk to the game.
Yeah, yeah, no. People tailgate further away from the game than where I'm at, so we really are right there. We're like 2 blocks from the stadium. It's a cool spot to be at. So yeah, no, definitely come through. Appreciate the you guys letting me shout it out and putting that up there.
It didn't really. I mean, it's kind of quiet right now until February 20th, until next Tuesday when they make that vote on the college football playoff format. Then I think all hell's going to break loose.
I hope they just get it right. I just want bowl season to mean something again. Like that's really what I want. Among all things, I just feel like you can find a way to get as many bowl games to matter as possible. Like it's never fun when you have these teams that oh, they didn't make the playoffs, or they didn't make as big of a game as they thought they were going to get to. So players just enter the transfer portal or enter the NFL draft, and they're just like they're not playing. Like it's it just ruins what is supposed to be one of the better postseasons in all of sports. So I would love to just see that get back, to find a way to make that possible is what I'd like to see.
So I just find this interesting just because I think it's humorous to me. It's funny. Breaking news: Neff says all hell will break loose next week. Uh, yes, because once they make that vote, well, there's going to be a couple things. First of all, when they vote on the college football playoff format. Second, the judge makes this ruling on the Tennessee Virginia thing where they're suing the NCAA over NIL rights. Um, but this makes me every time they've come out with their updated top 25, way too early top 25 going into the 2024 season. Um, they got at number 25 Texas A&M. Remains to be seen what happens there. At number 24 they've got the Hurricanes of Miami. At number 23 they got Kentucky, the Wildcats. Again, Kentucky's one of those teams. The last couple years they started off 5-0, and then they finished the season like 2-6. 22 Kansas. Kansas is an interesting team. Uh, Now they started off 5-0 last year, but then they finished the season 4-4. So 9-4 at Kansas. That's a successful season. Um, Number 21 they have Louisville. That'll make Ronnie Kent happy. Number 20 Kansas State. Number 19 Clemson. Clemson's preseason only 19. Uh, See, 18 you got the NC State Wolfpack. 17 Oklahoma State Cowboys. We always know it. You can't beat. Well, Oklahoma's out of the equation. But Mike Gundy, Mr. Mullet Man, you can never beat Oklahoma. If you can't win the Big 12 now with Mike Gundy or without Oklahoma being there, shame on you. 16 Tennessee, 15 Florida State, 14 the Oklahoma Sooners. Notice I'm not seeing your Nebraska Cornhuskers in here
I
anymore.
was well. So yeah, they're gonna make this list anywhere.
Oh, Michigan's 13th, LSU's 12th, Arizona's 11th, the Utes 10th, Alabama 9th, Penn State 8th, Missouri 7th, which I know Missouri had a great year last year. I don't know if I'd have them ranked 7th. Ole Miss is 6th. They're going to be like one of my teams, outside shot at the college football playoff. Now that Nick Saban's not in the SEC West anymore. Notre Dame's 5th, which I
Ooh.
don't understand. They have Texas 4th, Oregon 3rd, Ohio State 2nd, and of course, the Georgia Bulldogs are sitting 1st. And again, these rankings mean diddly dick only from the standpoint of you're going to have upsets in the first week and you can throw it out the window.
Yeah. Now, so since he went through that list and you brought up that on there, that's my bold prediction. The Nebraska Cornhuskers finish ranked. They finish the season ranked in the top 25.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my bold.
That that's
Matt Rule's building a program here, man. There's excitement around this team. For really the first time since I moved out here. Like I've embraced them. I didn't really have a college football team. I just watched the sport to enjoy it. But this is such a huge college football town that I've embraced it. I love this football team. I've been on board since I got out here. These fans have suffered through a lot. So Rule's building a good program. I have faith in this team. They finished ranked top 25 at the end of the year.
that is a more doable goal than winning the Big Ten, my friend. So I
I
will
was
agree
thinking
with
about
you on
that.
it. Maybe Nebraska does finish in the top 25. That is more realistic expectation. I will agree with you on that point. But to go as far as to go on a limb and say, yeah, they're gonna win the Big Ten, I would hand in your medical marijuana card now. Uh, because it's not going to happen. So, and again, thanks to Mustaki Authentic Hero, Pete's Famous Pizza for the sponsorship. Obviously, uh, Delco Dave's Cheesesteaks. And again, producer Angel says, thank you for watching the Line of Scrimmage with Ryan and Dave on, oh yes, thank you for watching the Line of Scrimmage with me and Dave on Sports Radio 102.9 The Game and Broad Street South Network. Um, here you go. George, let's look at Georgia's football schedule since they're preseason number one. Um, I don't know if Oklahoma's going to be on this. Give me just a second, and we'll pull it up here. 2024 college football schedule, Georgia. And again, some of these schedules are going to be like they open up the season with Clemson, not easy. That's in Atlanta. Then they have Tennessee Tech. They're at Kentucky. They'll beat Kentucky. They're at Alabama. Nick Saban's not there anymore. Um, but here's they're at Texas. Saturday, October 19th. That could very well be one of the best games of the year.
Yeah, that could be absolutely be a ton of hype going in there and a great game.
I mean, they get Auburn at home, they get Mississippi State at home. They should beat both of those easily. Um,
And they could be undefeated. Every team you said they definitely
yeah.
should be able to beat. Like I said, Texas is going to be a tough one. I mean, no Nick Saban for Alabama. Clemson, they're not going to lay down, won't be able to push over, but I don't see them losing to Clemson.
Uh, Obviously, Clemson will be a tough game, but they should win that one. Here's where I could see they could trip up. I don't think they're going to lose to Alabama just because of the Saban not being their factor. Um, Texas could be, again, one of the games of the year. And they also have to go to Ole Miss. Um,
That'll be
t-
another game right there.
Tough place to play. Ole
Yeah.
Miss up and coming. A lot of people talking about Ole Miss in the offseason. And again, it's just going to be a weird year in college football schedule wise. Like I'm looking at Clemson's. Here you go. Saturday, September 28th, Clemson hosts Stanford. Yeah,
That's going to be awesome. We're going to be seeing a bunch of new games. It's going to be great.
it just doesn't make sense to me, and it never will. We have a couple of minutes here. Again, I want to thank Scott Wolf, InsideUSC.blog. Yes, Angel, I'm aware.
2-minute warning.
Want to thank Angel for producing. I'm sure Deb's probably watching, like taking notes, critiquing the show. I'm not sure we'll get those notes. But again, thanks to her as well. All she does for Broad Street and all she does behind the scenes. Again, I want to thank Dave for joining as always. And again, we're back on Broad Street South, 102.9 The Game. Since Angel was away last week, hobnobbing with all the bigwigs. That's why they pay him the big bucks. I'm sure he inked that 7-figure salary on Radio Row. Angel's shaking his head no. So, Angel, you want to say anything before we sign off here? No, I guess not. Okay, or his mic's not working. But again, thanks for everybody who tunes in. Whether you're watching now, and there he is. Whether you're watching now, or you're going to watch this later on, or you're going to listen to it later on 102.9 The Game. Angel, anything you took away from the show with having Scott Wolf on? Are you getting more and more into the college football thing now, Angel? Can't hear you. Turn your mic on.
Whatever you have to do, plug it in.
I sure do.
There you go.
As I switched it off on the screen here. It's what happens. No. Good guess. As far as the college scene, it's kind of growing on me here a little bit, just a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. But no, it was good guess, informative, and I thought he was good overall. So if anything, at least he'll be. He said he'd love to come back, so you guys will have definitely someone to talk to when the season starts all over again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, everybody have a good night, and we will see you next Tuesday on Broad Street South and 102.9 The Game.
As a dog barks on the way out.